Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. Interesting, I think, topics today, Tyson. We got a lot to NFL to cover like we always do after Monday Night Football. Of course, we're going to be reacting to that as the New England Patriots beat the Arizona Cardinals. They are now in the playoff picture. Are they viable? We're going to dive into that. Also, Kyler Murray looks like it's a significant knee injury. He'll probably miss the rest of the season. Where does this put the Cardinals? That's a topic of conversation, as well as other reactions, other storylines that we have to get into after NFL Week 14. But Tyson, how was your weekend betting or just the NFL in general?
Well, I think I came to the consensus that I'm not going to bet on the UFC for a minute. It was that was brutal, man. But in my defense, I think that maybe there were some discussions to be had with the judges and some of the scorecards that came out. I mean, that was fucked up, dude. Like, there's a lot of people that lost a lot of money on some pretty questionable decisions. While the UFC's under investigation from Canada and all this, that, and the third, whatever. But besides that, I'm finally COVID negative, so I got that going for me. I'm out of contact, so I'm glaring at everybody. But decent weekend.
Good. And I thought, kind of similar to me, I thought it started off great in our NFL bets, and then things were crazy. And of course, I like you warned me when I said I was betting Cardinals. You're like, dude, what are you doing? And of course, they crumble, man. It just happens every single time. They're in the game, and then they muster up 0 points in the second half. Like, it's just a sick joke. But I mean, reaction overall, I was not impressed by the Patriots. And I think the entire thing you're going to hear. Belichick, we knew it, him versus Kingsbury. The Patriots got flat out outplayed in that first half. Like, let's not act like Belichick was doing anything special or anything mastermind here that we've come accustomed to. We've had this conversation regarding Belichick. He's great. He's the best of all time. He's cooked right now, man. He has a defensive coordinator, a defensive guy running his offense. It's horrible over there in New England on that offensive end. Yes, the stats are going to look great with the sacks and everything. I didn't think that defense played very good tonight. I don't know what your overall reaction was that you want to take away from the game tonight, Tyson.
I mean, I was laughing when you started talking because it's Groundhog's Day every week.
Every week?
The Patriots. And you know what pisses me off, and I was thinking about it during this game, and maybe I'm off base here, but everyone wants to say how the NFC sucks. And then every time an NFC bottom feeder plays an AFC team, it ends up close. It's like, so the worst conference with the worst teams is putting like close contests against the playoff teams from the other side. It's just because we're comfortable with the Bills and the Chiefs and the Bengals, and we're like, okay, we've seen them win before. Where in the NFC, it's like, it's not Tom Brady. That's why I think everybody's gravitating towards San Francisco. San Francisco is obviously really good, but like they feel safe. They feel like, and that's what I was thinking about during the game. How long are we going to hold on to these notions that we get from preseason and then maybe even early in the season? Like, how many times this year have you heard somebody say, if this Cardinals offense was all on the field at the same time, oh, it'd be electric. It's never going to happen. Like, we've reached a point where this failed. These guys will never play together. They're all banged up. Kyler's now out for, if it's a torn ACL, he might not play till the end of next year. That's where we're at with this thing. It's like, how electric could these guys be? We've been saying the same thing, since they went out and got Hollywood. And by the way, even when they're missing one piece, they're scoring 13 points. They're scoring for 17 points. Not a good team.
No,
I'm over it.
Yeah, they suck, dude. I'm over it too, man. The Cards are dead. Like, let's just put it this way. And I tweeted out after the game, I'm like, for our viewing experience, can we just blow this fucking thing up, man? Like, I'm so sick of this. Like, let's start here. Put Cliff out of his misery and fire him. Like, thanks for the service. This didn't work. Here's your money. Go on your way. Just put this dude out of his misery. It's a joke that we have to sit here and watch Cliff Kingsbury try to pretend to be a head coach in this league. And I'm way less critical of him than I think others. I think others people have been a little bit more pile-on-ish. I'm coming around to that now. I mean, at the end of the first half,
he's bad,
coaching malpractice.
He's bad.
He's bad. It's awful. Fire Cliff. Fire the GM for putting this entire thing together. Hell, Michael Bidwell should sell the team. Like, it's a joke.
Yeah, Steve Keim, I think, is one of the worst general managers in all sports, and it's like taken people 15 years for this thing to rear its head because Carson Palmer comes over and plays out of his mind for 2 years, and basically what everyone thought was his corpse turns into a nearly an MVP and buys this guy a fucking decade. It's like, what are we talking? It's so frustrating, man, because Phoenix it's a big market. People don't want to admit it. I think it's the 5th biggest TV market in the United States, and it's like, you guys got to get something busted in there because they're playing a Super Bowl in your backyard every other year. Like, that doesn't fire you up. You're just fine with being 4-13 this year, and maybe if Kyler comes back at the end of next year, maybe you could do it again. It's like, what's the point?
And it's the other thing too, like surrounding the Cardinals. Like, well, if it's this, like if Kyler Murray gets a coach, Kyler Murray sucks. Like, he's not very good. And like, we fell in love with this little rookie running around and doing things that we hadn't seen. Well, this is the NFL, man. You get figured out quick, and the dude doesn't want to work. He wants to play video games. And if you don't work on your craft in this league, they'll figure out pretty quick. And that's the realization I think that we've come to regarding Kyler Murray. I think we are way ahead of the curve on that, Tyson. And again, he's injured. We'd never want to see that, regardless of how we feel about him as a player. It sucks that he's hurt, and it sucks that it looks like he's going to miss a lot of time next year as well. With that being said,
well, hang on real fast. I want to play. Sorry. I want to just play a little game here as far as Kyler Murray goes. Like, sure. So let's start preseason. This is NFL.com. Has him at 10. Okay. This is who behind him. Russell Wilson, miss, right? Like, that sucks too. Derek Carr, too high. You and I agree. Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill. Like, these are the guys that Kyler should be around. It's just people were too high on him before the season started. Now it's like, we're so uncomfortable with moving Kyler back to that tier of those quarterbacks that he belongs with, and reluctant to be like, okay, well, Jalen Hurts is about to win the MVP. Like, at what point is he unanimously considered better than Kyler Murray? Like, you can run through the list. Like, he's closer to freaking Daniel Jones than he is to Pat Mahomes, and that's a fact.
It's absolutely. He's not very good right now, and the fact that the Cardinals basically sold themselves to him to please this guy when he doesn't even want to be playing football, at least at a high enough level to be an elite quarterback in the NFL, makes no sense to me. It's another failure of the gym. It's another failure of the owner, and it's going to be Groundhog's Day for them unless they figure this out and get serious about being a winning franchise in the NFL.
Trevor Lawrence or Kyler Murray going forward?
Trevor Lawrence, not even close. And we've been critical of him. The dude actually puts in the work and looks like he's improved. The only thing we've seen from Kyler Murray is regression. At least Trevor Lawrence has at least some ascension the past 5 weeks that looks like he can play.
And kind of looks like Trevor Lawrence gives a shit. Never seen Kyler Murray give a shit.
You're right, exactly. Except for the one time he yelled at Cliff, and he's like, "Man, it looks like he's fired up." It's like, oh,
yeah. God. The only time we see the dude get worked up and get like, you see the outward competitiveness come out is when he's bitching out one of his own teammates, or he's throwing his hands up at the sideline, or he's upset at the offensive lineman. It's like, dude, it's crazy. Somewhere else, man.
It's crazy. Cards are dead. This season's a lost one. It's over. We'll see what, if any, changes are made in Phoenix after the season. Let's flip over to the Pats. Like I said, I wasn't impressed with them, but hey, they won. They are now in the playoffs. Can they make the playoffs? And a question mark here, because as a quick outline, just for everybody out there, they're the 7th seed. The Chargers are also 7-6. The Jets are 7-6 as well. Those are going to be the 3 teams, and the Bengals are a game up. The Dolphins 8-5. Those are going to be those teams vying for the 6 and 7 spot here. Can they make I don't think this offense is good enough to make the playoffs. Chargers are getting healthy at the right time. Jets have a better defense. I think the Patriots, the odd man out of that group. What do you think, Tyson?
Well, to be sitting here, in that spot at this point in the season, it might sound blasphemous, but to me, that's a bit of a surprise. I didn't think this team was very good at all to start the year, so I'm actually fairly impressed with what they've done. It almost feels to me, Brad, that they're this year's version of the team that's just going to make it into the playoffs, play somebody closer than you expect, play the Bills closer than you expect for the first quarter and a half of football, and then they're going to get dominated and run out the building. But all anybody's going to remember, remember Taylor Heineke made his entire reputation basically after playing Brady close in the playoffs. Like, these teams pop up every year where it's like they have no business being here. And then they reel 3 in a row off at the end of the year. They sneak in the playoffs and they get stopped. But it's a building block that I didn't expect the Patriots to have going into next season. So for that, I think you got to be impressed and surprised. But the flip side of that is like, team's a little long in the tooth, my friend. There's most of the really good players are like, you're looking around, you're like, that dude's still playing at a high level. That's crazy.
I think this team sucks. I mean, the offense is atrocious, dude. Like, what are we talking about? They scored 23 points against a Cardinals team that's awful. Like, it's so bad, dude. And like, now Mac Jones and Matt Patricia are having a little kumbaya on the sidelines because they finally punched one in after they were gifted field position the entire night because the opposing coach is brain dead. And because DeAndre Hopkins just gave him a touchdown because he's being a fucking idiot.
Yeah, that's what I said. He got 7 for free.
It like now all of a sudden we're supposed to act like this Patriots team's good because Belichick, who I think is done, he doesn't want to coach anymore. We're supposed to act like this is the 07 Patriots. This team's awful. They can't play with the Chargers. They can't score on the Jets. We already saw that. I don't think the Pats make the playoffs. I don't think this changes anything. They have a game against the Raiders next week. Raiders are a better team than them. I know it's Belichick versus McDaniels, and there's a coaching mismatch there. I don't know. I just don't see it with this.
The Raiders aren't better than them. The Raiders are more talented than them. But the Raiders aren't better than them.
They're better than the Patriots. That team sucks.
Dude, the Raiders suck. Like, the Raiders suck too, man.
So do the Patriots.
Right, but, like, the Patriots are a better football team than...
Are they? I don't know.
Yes, of course they are. I mean, we do this with Vegas every week. It's just like, oh, they're up 20-0. Oh, they lost again. It's just like over and over. At a certain point, we got to be like, damn, this is not working. And back to the Pats, like, this is what we were saying, and I've been saying it for basically since the draft. Like, I've felt for 2 years now that Mac Jones is like at a ceiling. Like, this is like this is as good as Mac Jones is going to be, and I haven't seen anything from him at this point in the year that was like, oh, Mac Jones took a step forward. And it's only year 2, and maybe he proves me wrong in year 3. But right now, it's like that's who Mac Jones is. And you always wondered what the Pats were going to look like with Jimmy G. Well, wouldn't be much different if these are the skill players. Like, there's no juice, man. They got nothing. It's Ramondre and a bunch of guys.
Yeah, and I think to your point, and the last thing on the Patriots, and we'll get into some more fun topics and storylines here. When you know the quarterback doesn't have as high of a ceiling, why can't you go out and get a special dynamic play caller? Like, Matt Patricia's the choice here. Joe Judge, like, seriously, Belichick.
This is the guy that you get, and you know that going into the draft, you're probably going to end up with this guy, and you surround him with Nelson Aguilar and Devontae Parker and Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith, and that's your whole free agent budget. So, like, you go get T.Y. Hilton for $600K. Yeah. he's at least as good as, like, Kendrick Bourne. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right. We'll have something to see in our chalkboard. I think once these markets open up for the playoffs, I'm going to have an official bet on the Chargers making the playoffs. I think it's going to be minus money. Probably if it's anything less than 150, I'm definitely firing on. But we should get some value there now that they're out of the playoff picture here. But speaking of interesting stuff here, Jalen Hurts is now the MVP favorite. Now, I just saw on DraftKings. Normally we run off of FanDuel, but market isn't up right now there. On DraftKings, he's the minus 175 favorite to win the MVP, Tyson. That is over Patrick Mahomes, who threw a couple interceptions against the Broncos. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts continues to light defenses on fire. If they finish with 2 losses, let's say they lose to Dallas, because I don't see the Eagles losing another game besides maybe that Dallas game. He's wrapping up for the MVP, and it's going to be Hurts MVP, Sirianni, Coach of the Year. There's no other coach or player who should win those awards.
Well, if Philly wins the next 2 weeks, they get to take, week 17 and week 18 off if they want. And I think that could hurt Jalen, because if Patrick Mahomes goes out and has 6-7 touchdowns in those last 2 weeks, like wrapping up the number 1 seed in the AFC, then that's the last thing on your mind. Jalen Hurts 100% deserves the MVP at this point in the year. If you ask me, Pat Mahomes' stats are a little bit gaudier, but when you look at the turnovers, Jalen Hurts has turned the ball over something crazy like 5 times all year. He's been in the end zone 32 times. He's just the number 1 offense. Like, all these things are in his favor, and I'm an Eagles fan. but I'm not comfortable with it at minus 175. That feels like, to me, if it was plus 100, then I'm fired. But at minus 175, because if Jalen Hurts, for some reason, goes out and has a stinker against Chicago on Sunday, and then Pat Mahomes lights the world on fire, we're going into next week, and we're like, we have a new favorite for MVP. So this is why you got to get in on it when, the strike when you can, because minus 175 is like, you could have taken Hendon Hooker at minus 175 to win the Heisman. You could take Giannis minus 175 to win MVP. Like, how many times are these the way these things really end? To me, it's just too soon to be that sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair when you look at it that way. And to your point, too, a lot of these markets move glacially. Like, Jalen Hurts was plus money forever.
Plus 2,000 before the year. Like, you ought to kick yourself if you didn't go far. If there's a starting quarterback in the NFL from a playoff team a year ago, essentially, or a promising team that just missed the playoffs, like a $5 ticket, like that's $100 you get off of Jalen Hurts. You do that enough times. I mean, look at the past MVPs. Like, outside of Rodgers, it's like Mahomes out of nowhere, Lamar out of nowhere. Now we're gonna get Hurts out of nowhere. That's a lot of money to be leaving on the table by kind of being scared.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. And I think especially too to your thought, like playoff team last year, high win total the next year. Eagles had a high win total. We all thought they were going to exceed expectations. You kind of look for that. Like, those are your soft spots, and see, like, Josh Allen was the favorite, and I think a rightful favorite, but he basically had to be Superman to win the award. And plus it was at like 350 and Mahomes like 500 to start the season. And then obviously he's going to play that into shorter odds. Meanwhile, the market doesn't think the Eagles are actually as good as they are. We've seen that forever. So now they're finally starting to come around to Jalen Hurts. He could have had a soft number for a long time if he believed it kept up. But to your point, you got to have the balls to fire on these things early. If you want to actually have a long shot. Now, if you want something more certain, it seems like what the market's telling you is, hey, Hurts basically has this thing wrapped up. We need a couple more performances, elite performances, before we move this thing even to like minus 300 in a way. So interesting thought there. I think he's the rightful favorite at this point. I think he should win the MVP if the Eagles lose 2 games max. 3, we're having a different conversation, but they're going to have the best record in the NFL. And it's hard not to reward a player and a coach for having the best record in the league.
And his numbers are stupid. And nobody thought that this was going to happen. It's like a perfect storm of all the narrative-driven things about this award. It's like he's crushing the league this year. And right before we get into the next topic, I was having a conversation today. Where does Hurts rank in quarterbacks from his draft class?
Oh, man.
Burrow is 1 for me.
Name them. Who's in that again?
I'm just going basically off Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Hurts.
Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Hurts. God, man.
Because your natural inclination is to put Herbert at 2. And it's right. Like, of course he's at 2. And some people are like, he's at 1 because he's a physical freak and his talent's insane. Right. But he's pushing up. He's going to get to that point. Justin Herbert's almost universally hated in 2 years. I'll tell you that much. If he doesn't win football games, eventually people are going to – all the stuff you like about him, it's going to be like, oh, my God. This guy again. Like, let it lose, Justin.
Right.
So, I think he's probably the most physically talented, but he hasn't been in the playoffs. The biggest thing he's ever won in his career is the Rookie of the Year award. And Tua comes out balls like crazy this year. Until this week, and like it wasn't, he was replaced and all this stuff. Like, through this point in their career, like, you're having a real conversation with 2, 3, 4, which I don't think anybody was anticipating. Not even at the start of this year. Like, you go back to rookie year, it was Burrow, Herbert, no question. That was 1, 2, and now it's right. Like pretty sure Burrow's 1, but after that it gets tricky.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thought process. That's good thought as we move into this topic. I mean, that's Tua Herbert, right? It was the entire thing, Sunday Night Football. Whoa, this is going to be the battle. We're all Herbert guys, and Tua sucks, and but Tua's played great this year. And Tua laid an egg, man. Like, and that's my guy. I like him. But one of the reasons, Tyson, too, I did want to say this as we get into this topic, that we wanted to do this podcast and like have these conversations, because what's been driving us crazy about like the media and where we're at on sports conversations is if you're either one fan, you gotta hate the other.
You can't like both. You can't like both.
We we like both these guys and can understand that there are different traits that both these guys have that can make them elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Like we saw it with Tua. He's elite accuracy. And we saw that when he puts it to his guys, when he has time and he's on rhythm, he can throw it and get it to his guys. And Herbert, like you said, is a physical freak. The dude has a cannon rocket arm, is athletic, can move. We can like chocolate and also like vanilla. Like that's okay here. Like we can like different flavors at the same time. Like I don't understand like why you need to stake your claim on one thing or the other. Now I will say in this game, Herbert completely outplayed Tua. I mean, just look at the baseline here. Herbert 39 of 51 for 367 and a touchdown, while Tua was 10 of 28 for 145 and a touchdown. Glaring difference there. Give me your thoughts on what we saw on Sunday night.
I think the Dolphins are in trouble. I really do. Like, if this is the way that the Los Angeles Chargers are able to handle you on defense, and Tyreek hurt his ankle, comes back in the game, and to be honest, like, he didn't get gloved on that long touchdown catch that he had, but he was essentially being covered step for step until the cornerback fell down. He got a free tud out of the whole thing. But, like, what happened to Jalen Waddle? Like, Jalen Waddle is not allowed to get the ball until the fourth quarter. Like, that should be rule 2. Get the ball to 10, get the ball to 17, and get the hell out of the way, because that's how we won our last 8 games. That's how this thing works. You can't run the ball. Unfortunately, Jeff Wilson goes down. This was the issue the whole time. This is what we've known about Miami. It's like nobody has a bell cow, but, well, some teams have a bell cow, Derrick Henry, guys like that. But they at least have a platoon, and Miami's platoon isn't good enough to win the game when they can't throw the ball. And there's a lot of teams in the AFC, and I was over here hurting on the AFC, but, like, you got to, if you can't run the ball when you're not able to throw, you will get run out of the gym by the top 4 or 5 teams in the AFC. And they basically got ran off the field by the Chargers. And they've been a below-average team to this point in the season. I thought that Joe Lombardi actually had some of his most creative moments yesterday. It wasn't like a good overall 60 minutes worth of play calling. There were still some times where you're like, yep, that's the Chargers. But there was more stuff they were able to do. And I think part of it is, like you said, this is really the first time that we're like, okay, Mike Will's over there, he's healthy. Keenan's over there, he looks healthy. Austin Eckler in the backfield. Now let's open this thing up. Let's run what this offense was supposed to be. And it still was a lackluster for a little bit of the game, but we got a Herbert bomb, right? We got a couple Herbert bombs. We got Keenan working underneath. We had Eckler running the ball. Like, this thing can get really fun in a way that I just think Miami's more one-dimensional than any other. I hesitate to say high level because I don't know if Miami is that, but one of those teams that you talk about, like, oh, they can make a run. Miami can make a run the same way the Bengals did a year ago, but it has to be perfect. Like, everything has to align, and Tyreek has to go Jamar Chase mode and have 200 yards in these big games. It's just not sustainable.
No, and the problem with the Dolphins, too, is their defense sucks. Like,
that's bad.
They just suck, you know, and at least with the Bengals, you know, Lou Anarumo is a great defensive coordinator, and there's dudes on that side. Like, Phillips is the only dude really on the Dolphins. We thought they were getting another game breaker, and
he was great.
Chubb. They didn't call his name on Sunday night. The dude was a ghost. He was more invisible than Jalen Waddle.
He got crushed on the goal line by our boy, podcast legend, Storm Norton.
Oh, my God, dude.
That was worth a first? You paid a first for Storm Norton to get your pie off the ball? I mean, come on.
First time you've ever said his name without being critical.
I mean, it was his best play of his career.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Kind of to wrap some things up on this, too, and 2 angles. I think the Chargers are going to get scary. They're going to get hot at the right time here. They're getting healthy, and that's something the Chargers never are. Maybe this long season is actually good for the Chargers. They just get hurt early and they get healthy late, and they can actually build momentum into the season. God, if it saves Brandon Staley's job, though, is that a detriment? Like,
bro, how many times were you watching the game yesterday where you thought, like, in the back of your head, like, Staley's our boy, and we liked him preseason. We've been hating on him a bunch throughout the year. But how many times in the back of your head yesterday where you're just like, does this guy know what he's doing?
Oh, all the time. I have no clue if he knows what he's doing. And then the problem is they're going to get hot at the right time. They're all going to get healthy. And then they're going to win games or make the playoffs. They're going to
go to the AFC title game out of nowhere. And then people are going to be like, Brandon, you're the coach of the year?
And they're going to extend Brandon Staley. Meanwhile, you could have Sean Payton, and it's not going to happen. And Sean Payton's going to go to, like, Vegas or something and win a Super Bowl there. It's going to be something crazy. But that's my thought on the Chargers. I think they're definitely going to be good enough to make the playoffs and potentially make noise there. They can beat the Chiefs. We've seen that. They play the Chiefs extremely well. It's just they can't figure it out how to win games at the end. Probably some of that has to do with Brandon Staley being the head coach. And then quickly to wrap up the Dolphins here, Tyson, we're going to see how good Mike McDaniel really is at play design. Because, sure, yes, the Niners, they know McDaniel. They know that offense, right? It's their offense. They run the defense against it all the time. So, you kind of give Tua and the offense a little bit of a pass there for
and number one defense in the league.
There. Then the Chargers with a JV squad with their three best players out, they make them look pedestrian. Basically made them look like Navy was running offense.
Kyle Van Noy got a sack, man. Kyle Van Noy's he's making up for stealing all that money from the Chargers.
Finally does something. But that defense makes the offense look pedestrian. I think there's a little bit of a blueprint out, at least some sort, on how we can defend these guys. We're going to see how good Mike McDaniel really is at designing this offense and getting people back in rhythm. I think there were some play flaws or play design flaws. Like you said, how do we not just get Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill the ball and get out of the way? We'll see how good these guys are. They're going to need it soon. They've lost 2 in a row, and they're now 3-4 away from home, and this is division getting tighter. I'm intrigued to see that, and that's what I have my eye on the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun end to the season. Both these teams, like you could look back, we'll look back in a month and be like, just remember when we were hating on those guys, and now they're just rolling people in the playoffs? Like, these are those teams.
Okay, Brock Purdy, kind of last big storyline that we got out of this. Listen, there's no way I could take Brock Purdy as a favorite over Tom Brady.
Was that the play of the week? What was the play of the week this week?
Oh, Bucks plus 3.5, dude. That was dead before kick. That was a
joke. I was going in on you, and then you were like, "Nah, man, this is my play of the week." And then I reconsidered everything I thought I knew about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, dude. Brock Purdy played fine.
I saw that first drive. I was like, I'm getting the hook. This is great. I saw that first drive. I'm like, this is dead. Like, there's zero chance.
It's cooked. I mean, the Bucks suck. Like, the Bucks might not win their own division. I put them on the never bet again list last week. It sounds like you're coming around to me. And I want to say this on Brock Purdy. Like, he's played really well in the 7 quarters as he had to play. But everybody today and this morning, because this was kind of the talk, it was like, can Brock Purdy lead this team to He's not driving the car.
No.
Brock Purdy is like, he's in the middle of the back seat, kind of like pointing out your road stop. Like, oh, look, we can go to the gas station. It's like, this isn't the same thing as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Like, if you're down 3 with 2 minutes left and you have to go 75 yards, every other quarterback in the playoffs would be who you pick before you pick Brock Purdy. That's just a fact. And, like, we have to see the Niners get beat up with Brock Purdy at quarterback to know if the Niners are going to be good enough to win the Super Bowl. So to be sitting here after they beat a shitty Bucs team that looks like they gave up 3 weeks ago, like, if you take away 2 last-second wins against bad teams, like the Bucs are vying for the number 1 pick in the draft, like, this is the team that we're like, okay, Niners are here. And they're damn good, don't get me wrong, but it's like, this is a little preemptive flowers.
Deebo Samuel, high ankle sprain. They said he's potentially going to come back in the regular season. I don't see any point to that, especially with an MCL sprain as well. They should sit him down until the playoffs start. I agree with you. The conversation, this is what we do. We prop these guys up. They play 7 quarters. And people are trying to act like this guy's Tom Brady coming in replacing Drew Bledsoe. Like, this is insane. The dude was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. All 32 teams passed on him. And I get it. Like, everybody's calling Sage Rosenfels. Hey, you worked with this guy, right? You're an Iowa State guy. Oh yeah, his skill set just so good, And this, well, if his skill set was so good, first of all, why didn't he do anything in college when he was there for 7 years?
Oh, he handled to Brees Hall really well.
Right. And secondly, why didn't he go anywhere above the 7th round? Like, yes, I get it. They fall. Quarterbacks don't fall anymore like they used to. Like, there's information about these guys all the time. He is benefiting from this stacked roster, a play caller who helps out young quarterbacks, simplifies the game, and he's taking advantage of his chances. And tip our cap to Brock Purdy for doing this. But slow down, like you said, Tyson. Like, the kid's a rookie, and we're going to throw him into a high-speed playoff matchup who against a team in the Cowboys, which, remember, everybody tried to tell us they're the best team in the league before, they almost got beat by the Texans. Now, all of a sudden, this guy is going to go and shred up that defense.
It was 50% chance to win the Super Bowl or whatever it was for the Cowboys a week ago. Now it's probably like 9 because ESPN's on some crazy shit with that FBI. I mean, like, I'm rooting for Brock Purdy. It would be sweet.
Right.
But another thing people need to wrap their heads around, I don't know why this has been so difficult for people to understand. Jimmy's gone. Like, that's probably going to happen. That's like, as close to a guarantee as you can get in the National Football League. They're not going with – unless Brock Purdy wins fucking Super Bowl MVP, they're not going with Mr. Irrelevant over the guy they haven't got to see play yet that they traded 3 first-round picks for. So pump the brakes. Like, this isn't an audition for Brock Purdy to get traded somewhere else. Like, nobody runs this offense. Like, where's he going to go, Miami? No.
Right.
Like, there's nobody else that runs it like this. I mean, if you run down the NFC roster for roster, you might end up taking the Niners over everybody. But then you go – Brock Purdy or Dak, Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, and then and it evens out real quick.
It's Brock Purdy. Like come on, man. It's crazy.
It's so crazy.
All right, other storylines we're going to run through real quick, Tyson, just kind of other things from week 14. Listen, this is my main one I want to talk about. I think the Bills might stink on offense. Like, dude, it's too many weeks in a row now. It's a pattern. It's not a coincidence. This offense is not explosive anymore. Diggs and Josh Allen don't have the chemistry they've had for the past couple years. Gabe Davis went from a burgeoning superstar at receiver to just a guy. This offense stinks right now. It's crazy. And all of a sudden they found a run game and now it's disappeared. Josh Allen has regressed. I don't know if that's just solely a Dayball thing or if it's just a combination of multiple things. Like, I think they might stink. Now, I say that they might explode next week and, make a statement as we get closer. But right now, they're not a good offense.
They just got to be Josh Allen's elbow. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Because some of these throws are like, he's 2019 Carson Wentz on some of these swing passes that he's throwing. He's throwing hospital balls to some of these poor guys out there. And they're explosive plays, right? That Dawson Knox play, kind of an accident. Like that, I don't know if that was, the true design of the play was Dawson Knox 41-yard touchdown. Obviously, you take those, and we're used to that with the Bills. But like normally when the Bills do those things, it's like, oh shit, like Josh Allen threw a dime, great play, and now it's like, oh, the Bills scored a long touchdown. That's new. Whereas we thought all year it was like a 75. It's 4 verts, maybe we're playing Madden out here. These guys are going to be throwing the ball around. I will say that Jets defense is just so much better than people think. Like people say it's good, but like I don't think people and like this Quinnen Williams storyline is fun, but it's hard. Like people aren't wrapping their minds around how well he's playing. And like Sauce Gardner's cool because his name's cool. He might be the best corner in the NFL this season. And by the way, straps on the other side of the field, back end's good, linebackers are good, D line's nasty. Like they're a tough team to score on regardless. And when they get a second crack at somebody, all that film, just maybe that could attribute a little bit.
Lions have now won 5 out of 6. They are in the playoff picture now. I just want to say to Detroit, send me Christmas gifts because I said they were going under 5.5. As soon as I said that, they won 3 in a row, should have beat the Bills and made it 6 in a row. You're welcome, Detroit, because I was rooting for the Lions and love my boy Dan Campbell. So I think I reversed jinx just for you guys. So I hope nobody tailed me on that. I did it for Detroit. I just want to put that out there.
Well, that's good. You, Eminem, Big Sean. I mean, I'm trying to think of a Ford. Maybe like Henry Ford. That's some Mount Rushmore in Detroit. That's the 4 that we need up there. I mean, man, the Lions are so much fun. Like, it's ridiculous. And I knew, as I took Vikings plus 2.5, I was just like, I can't let a 10-2 team, in a dome, blah, blah, blah. And the process was good. Justin Jefferson went off. That was all the things that we thought. This Lions offense just goes and goes and goes and goes. And they don't have an off switch. Like, there's not a 4-minute Lions offense. There is we're trying to score the ball this play. Like that. That's how the Lions seem to approach this thing. And they played the perfect opponent to do it to. Because it kind of, for some, there's a lot of eyes on this game. This was a bigger game of the week. People haven't really watched the Vikings. Like, they watched them play against the Bills. And as you said, the Bills offense has been struggling. And then before that, it was like we saw them play the Eagles in week 2. but there's a lot of space there where that defense was dog shit and nobody watched. And now it's like, did you see what the Lions did to the Vikings? Most people have been doing that to the Vikings. So I think the Lions have been going off, but all this really told me was, I mean, if Minnesota makes it to the NFC Championship game, I'll be surprised.
Couple more here, like major storylines. The Panthers 2-0 with Sam Darnold. They beat the Seahawks on the road 30-24. I mean, they just pushed around the Seahawks. Like, they were physical. They ran through them. The Panthers are one game back in the NFC South. The Bucks play the Bengals. Like, the Bucks have next week. The Bucks have a tough schedule to close. Well, I guess not necessarily because they go at Cardinals, Panthers, Falcons. But I mean, they go Bengals. Meanwhile, the Panthers, I mean, this is kind of crazy to me. I can't even believe we're talking about this right now after the Bucks were minus 700 last week. Panthers, home Steelers, Lions, then at Bucks and at Saints. Holy smokes. It's crazy that we might even have this conversation here, that this could happen, and they're plus 360 to win the division. I don't think it's going to happen, but they're sneaking up on them.
I mean, at that number, I feel like you almost have to fire it because you mentioned the Bucs schedule, and it sounds easy when you think of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that won the Super Bowl, or the team that was 30 seconds away from going back to the Super Bowl a year ago. This team stinks, dude, and they don't care. Like they don't seem to care at all that they stink. Like the offense is just like, yeah, whatever. Like, this is fine. We'll score 6 points today. Who cares? The Panthers give a shit, and the Falcons give a shit. And those are two teams that you end the season with that, by the way, are breathing down your neck to win the division. Carolina has some winnable games there, too. Them versus Detroit will be really fun. Carolina is so bad. And you said watching Navy. That's what the Panthers are like. They have 3 plays, and, like, nobody can stop them some weeks. And that's what makes them dangerous. And that's why with a 4-game stretch, like the team that's trying and the team that's carrying, versus the team that seems to have mailed it in since week 3, it could get a little interesting. That line is really, really bad in my opinion for the Bucs.
Here's an interesting one too to close. The Jaguars just destroyed the Titans, 36-22, and it wasn't that close. Like, the Titans got up 14-0 early in the first quarter. Looked like this baby was over. Henry fumbles a couple times. Jags never turned back. Trevor Lawrence has been a top 3 quarterback in the NFL quietly since week 9. Right now, the division. Titans minus 550 to win. The Jags plus 480 to win it. Record. Jags are 5-8. Titans 7-6. So 2 games back, but they have the tiebreaker over the Titans through the head-to-head. Next week, Jaguars are home against the Cowboys, who just struggled against the Texans. Then at Jets, at Texans, home Titans, potentially for the division. Here's the Titans schedule. At Chargers, home Texans, home Cowboys, then at Jags. I think, Tyson, I am going to take a shot on the Jaguars here at plus 480 to make to win this division.
I love it, man. We're going with Dougie P. I'm not going to jump on it with you because, to me, all 4 of the Jaguars finishing games feels like games they might lose. Like, if they lose to the Cowboys, next week, the dream's dead, essentially. True. Like, it's almost too much to make up. They lose to the Jets, it's done, right? So it could be fun. It could be one of those ones where you're like watching and you're really vibing with the ticket that you're holding. But to me, it just feels a little interesting. I'm way more interested in Bengals. What are they at right now? Plus 110 to win the North, while Baltimore's minus 135. Those should be switched. That doesn't make any sense in my head. Cincinnati is, like, I guess this is just the episode of just kind of crapping on the national people here, but, like, at what point did Joe Burrow and the Bengals get to be mentioned in the same tier as the other AFC teams? Like, at what point do we say, oh, they beat every good team they play almost every time? Like, that doesn't count for anything? They just embarrassed the Browns. Deshaun Watson-led Browns have looked horrible on offense, though, so that might not be the biggest thing. But they kill the Chiefs. They're the number one, like, the throwing the ball all over the yard. Joe Burrow is basically only throwing interceptions these days. He said it himself, off tip passes. Like, it's a different offense than it was week 1. And the Ravens look essentially dead in the water, man. Like, they won. But they did it in the way that they win games against bad teams. And the way they win games against bad teams, gets to slide against a lot of the AFC, but it doesn't get to slide when you got to play, at the top level. Like the Bengals are just better, like almost everywhere, man.
I agree. I'm going to have to jump on that with you because I got a lot of liability on the Ravens to win this thing, and I think I'm going to take Joe Burrow over Anthony Brown when it comes down to it.
Here's the schedule for the Bengals to close out. They go Bucks, Patriots, Bills, Ravens. Okay. And then the Ravens go Browns, Falcons, Steelers, Bengals.
Ooh,
on paper,
schedule.
It feels like that should be Ravens wins. But when you look at what this offense has become, like, did they score enough to be able to beat the Browns? The Browns aren't really scoring the ball right now, but that could be a close game. Falcons could still be playing for something. They should beat the Steelers. But, like, you're going in potentially and most likely with the division on the line to the Bengals in the last week of the season. I'm taking Joe Burrow over whatever the hell is going on in Baltimore at that time. I don't even know if Lamar's playing the rest of this year. He wants his money, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. So a lot of storylines coming out of week 14. We get down to it, man. This is going to be awesome as we push for the playoffs. There's some wrapped up. There's going to be drama like there's always is. So make sure to stay tuned to us here at the Roundtable. We appreciate you guys following with us throughout this NFL season. Like, subscribe, and share. Rate the show. If you do that, it really helps us out, whether it's on Apple or Spotify, or if you comment on YouTube, we'll correspond with you there. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us. We really appreciate you guys kind of getting involved in this conversation with us. We're getting ready for bowl season. That's going to be streaming live on Twitter and Twitch on Wednesday. Episode coming out Thursday for the games taking place starting Saturday. We'll be back for our NFL one after Thursday Night Football live. There are Saturday games this week, which is interesting. So that could mess up your viewing schedule. We have you covered here at the Roundtable. We'll cover everything you need. Bets will be in the chalkboard. The link is in the bio here. We appreciate it as always. We'll speak to you next time. But until then, peace.